What's up, Coach Colin Castell with Shot Mechanics Basketball, and today we're going to fix Markelle Fultz's free throw. All right, so I'm super excited to see how Markelle Fultz is going to do in the NBA, but one of the issues, especially the last couple of weeks on social media that blew up, is his free throws. Now, he is a great shooter and a great scorer, and so I'm really not super worried about his free throws. I think it's probably a shoulder issue, but what I wanted to do today is there are some mechanical issues that are going on. I wanted to talk about them because of the same issues that happen to a lot of players just like you. So what we're going to do today is we're going to kind of go over some of those quick fixes, and a lot of times this can increase your free throw percentage, the very first time you implement them. So the key with this is that you really want to just work on one tip at a time, right? If you try to work on all the tips at once, a lot of times it's not going to be super successful for you. So try one at a time, see what works best, and from there, that's how we want to go from it. So the very first thing that I notice about Markelle's free throw is his shot line, meaning the line that he brings the basketball up. So as he gets to the free throw line and he does his routine, he has a tendency, he tilts his feet, which I like, but he has a tendency to bring the ball over to the left side of his body, just like this, right? Now, one thing you notice is that guys like Kevin Durant do this as well, and I think it's guys that have abnormally long arms, this is a tendency. But the issue with this is, as he brings the ball up, it comes up the left side of his body, so it doesn't reach his straight line until the very last second. And so he's got this momentum that's starting to go left to right, and then he tries to correct it at the very, very last second of his jumper. A lot of times it's not as consistent. So the very first tip that I would probably give Markelle, or you if you're the same way, is to, instead of start with the ball on your left over here, is to bring it further over and start right about from your right thigh. Because if you can start from your right thigh and you bring it up, that means that everything's going to be in perfect alignment the whole time, and we're not going to get that left to right kind of, issue that's going to be added to it. So again, a great way to think about it is just as you're getting ready to shoot, tap your right thigh and shoot going up into it. A great drill that I use with a lot of young shooters when we're working on free throws is to tap their thigh 3 times and then load in their shot. So you can do the exact same thing, but you're just going 1, 2, 3. Third one goes up, right? That's a great way to really keep everything in a line, get that momentum moving straight towards the basket. All right, so the next thing we notice is Markelle's head position. Now, this is something that a lot of players mess up. So, from every level, from elementary all the way up to the pros, we see this all the time. And basically what I mean by that, as he's getting ready to shoot, he tilts his head back just like this. And so that starts to pull his chest up a little prematurely and messes with his arc. His arc's a big part of why he misses and why he doesn't. And so with his head being pulled up, it's much harder to be consistent, because check this out. If my head's steady and I'm targeting like this, as I come up through, I can generate that momentum through my body and towards the hoop a little bit better. If I start tilting my head back, it starts pulling my chest, and now my momentum, even before I've shot, is starting to fall back away from the hoop just a little bit, adding an extra variable, right? You can see where if we start stacking 2 or 3 of these variables up, they can make a big difference. Because when you release the basketball, it might be this big of a difference, but by the time it gets to the hoop, it might be 2 or 3 inches, and that's the difference between a make or a miss a lot of the time. So what I always like to say is I say target through your eyebrows. Target through your eyebrows, meaning we want to keep our head steady, and I want my eyes up in my head, just like this, looking at the basket through my eyebrows, pretty much. What we see from a lot of shooters like Markelle is they'll keep their eyes in the center of their head, but then they'll just tilt their whole head up to see the hoop. But instead, we want to target with our eyes, not our whole head. So one thing that might help you is get to the line, do your routine, and then as you find it, think about looking through your eyebrows, keeping your head more steady. That way when you snap through, it keeps your chest forward, you get more power from your hips, more fluidity. That can help a lot of players out. All right, so next let's talk about hand position. Now when Markelle's shooting his free throw, he generally kind of rotates his hand on the top/side of the ball right here. And because he's got that left-handed shot line, as he brings it up, that automatically kind of sets his hand on the side of the basketball when he gets up too high, and then he rotates and snaps at the last second. So if you really slow down the footage, most of the time you can see that the ball's coming off of his ring finger quite a bit, which is a pretty big no-no when it comes to shooting. Because anytime a ball's coming off your ring finger, it's probably not in strain alignment with the rest of your arm, right? So hand position plays a really important role in how this works, and everybody's gonna be a little bit different. But what I would recommend is one of 3 hand positions, either on the top, back, or side of the basketball. And it's gonna kind of depend on where your shot line's at. So if you move your shot line over to the right, I would probably try to get your hand more on top of the basketball instead of the side, because that way I can lock my wrist early as I'm coming up, and I can snap everything in a straight line, right? One kind of main key to think about here is the hand's gonna change for different players. I know a lot of great players like Stephen Curry, who keeps his hand more on the side, who comes through and snaps it down. but the idea is we just want to get the wrist around early if that's the case. So play around with your hand position. Just know that there's not one specific right way to do it, but you need to kind of try all three, top, back, or side, see which one works best for you. All right, so the next big key that will help Markelle out and a lot of you is targeting, meaning when you find the basket on your shot. What a lot of times we see is players do their routine, whatever it is, and then they relax, and then they find the hoop right now as their ball's coming up. They bring eyes and ball up at the same time. That's a bad idea. Generally, basketball is a hand-eye coordination sport. The longer you aim at something, the more accurate it's going to be. So do your routine, whatever it's going to be, exact same, but then take that second to pause and really visualize the flight of the basketball before you actually shoot, right? If I can find my target and I can visually find the flight of the basketball, my brain can do that supercomputing to figure out the distance, the speed, all that sort of stuff, and generally you're going to be a lot more accurate because you're targeting at it. One of the best free throw shooters of all time, Steve Nash, he would do his routine, step to the line, and do a practice shot just like this. So then he'd get his basketball, and he's already locked in and targeted for a free practice rep, essentially, right? So again, find the hoop early. What we see with Markelle is he does his routine, he's looking forward, and then he tilts up and shoots at the same time. His brain only gets a split second to target, and a lot of times that can make a huge difference. So find the rim early. It's going to make a big difference in your shot, I guarantee it. All right, so the next thing we want to talk about is your load point, or starting the basketball a little bit lower. Now, Markelle actually did this in college. When he was shooting his college shots, he put his free throw down here by his waist. But now that he's kind of retrained his shot in Sixer shooting camp, and I don't know if it's the shoulder or whatever it is, now he's starting to set it higher right here, so he's not getting very much momentum and speed. Odds are he's probably working with an old school shooting coach who wants him to, set it really, really high and keep everything mechanical. But really that doesn't work very well, especially for a silky smooth player like Markelle. So think about trying to start the basketball lower on your free throws, especially if you're a female player. This happens a ton for some reason in the coaching. Don't set it on the shelf up here, right? Just like a normal shot, we want to load the basketball down by our waist, get this momentum and rhythm, smooth all the way through. Again, if you can start it low, you're going to get more power, more fluidity. It's going to be a lot easier to replicate as well. All right, if you like this video, you're going to want to do a few things. Number one, click the first link in the description down below. Get a free copy of my Sniper Shooting Challenge. This is a shooting challenge that's going to really push you as a shooter and really hopefully take you to that next step in your development the very first time you try it. That's how powerful it is. So definitely want to click that link in the description down below. And if you're new to shot mechanics, you're going to want to do a few things. Number one, hit the subscription button. Number two, hit the like button. Number three, head to the comment section down below and leave a comment. Let me know what sort of video you want to see next. I always say this is a channel for the people, by the people, and we run pretty much everything off request, so leave it down below and hopefully I'll be able to get to it. Again, I'm Coach Colin with Shot Mechanics Basketball. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, splash on.